Can't you feel the chaos waking, running out of time? But this world is ours to save, so hold the line. Oh, it's through or die. Oh.
What's up, guys? We are back. This is the Bridging the Biblical Gap with
Welcome.
Shay and JJ.
How are you guys?
What's up, Shay?
How
we
are
are
you?
Back, finally. The
I know.
wait
Sorry.
is over.
Sorry it's taking us a minute, but life happens.
It's my fault. I take full responsibility for my actions. It's just been, which we'll get into. It's been tough. Things have been crazy. So
life gets hard. Life gets hard and things happen. But let me tell you, when something is in the back of your mind, it's hard to let go of it. So we are back and we're here to just chat about some things.
Just chatting. That's it.
So we've named this podcast Bridging the Biblical Gap, trying to find a way for people to understand that the Bible is not separate from the world, as a lot of people like to use in their arguments, but that it explains a lot of the world. And the breakdown of that.
Going on in the world as well, yeah.
Well, and I think it's, and I don't mind just jumping into it because I've been talking about this lately with some people, and I think that it's something that people forget, because people will read something and they won't put themselves in the day-to-day of what that looks like or what that is. Right. And that's a real problem. So I think the last time we talked about Adam and Eve. Yep. And we discussed kind of their relations to us. Yeah.
Adam's a man.
Adam got problems.
I was gonna say he got suckered into some stuff though. So.
But I will tell you, I think that's where people need to understand where it starts. Like, first and foremost, the first 3 chapters of the Bible in Genesis really explains God's intention with us. And without understanding his intention, we don't understand why we're here or what we're doing or why things are happening the way it is. And I think that is where I started my journey of figuring out, okay, at one point I was like, what is my purpose and how can you tell? Because no one can tell by looking
outside.
Where's
the template? Where's the blueprints?
What is for each person, everyone's individual, blah, blah, blah.
I like this.
Yes, I went and got
cheat codes.
I got a new Bible, and
mine does not look like that. I don't have this to where I can I gotta actually look for it.
Well, because I do struggle with looking. There is a lot. There's a lot in here, but I went and ordered these off of Amazon.
Oh, so you put these in there yourself?
And I just went through each one and I put them on so that I could see them, and I just put them wherever like another Bible.
Shout out Amazon.
Thank you.
Yep.
Came in just a few days, and I put them on. It was actually nice because I actually got to go through every single book, and I realized in the middle of this Bible, there's a lot of books that are just very, very tiny and very short.
Often
so I'm like, well, what are those?
Probably too.
Yeah, and I'm like, what do those say?
Noticed as much as the bigger ones.
Right. So, but we've been going through in our Bible study. We've been just going through the Bible, kind of seeing what it says and stuff. And so here's what I want to say. So with Genesis, in the very beginning, because we're gonna break down. I've heard this already too with the argument. Sometimes understanding how we started is where people get caught up because of the bing bang and this, that, and the other. The understanding of what's happened. So a continuum that we live in where time happens and we live in, a time period. There's a past, present, and future. A continuum happens when time, space, and matter come into existence at the same time, AKA the Big Bang is how people explain it, right?
Right.
God says it, the very first, in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, there's time. God created the heavens, there's space, and the earth, there's matter. Yep. So right there is the first, depicts the whole, exactly what they asked for.
And all things will be good.
And then he made the Trinity of Trinities, because time is past, present, future. Space is length, width, height, and matter is solid, liquid, gas. So in his intelligence, he created the Trinity of Trinities, that some people like to think a bunch of things came together and created something out of nothing, which doesn't happen. So you understand that he's created space for us to live in. And now what we have to understand is that he has angels that do things, right? But they're not his children. They live in an understanding of what's what in the heavenly realms and with their free will. Lucifer comes about because he decides he's better than, he wants to be worshipped, he's this, that, and the other. He creates a lie, and then all of the deterioration of life form comes from that. And then he's kicked out of heaven, not because Because, people are like, well, we get forgiven. How come Lucifer can't be forgiven? Because Lucifer was in the know of what was what.
Right.
So there was no space to be forgiven, where God created us as
He's seen the blueprints.
Well, he understood.
Right.
But we are God's children. So if you were to take your children, I have 5 kids. My children are in a different position than anybody else in my life. And most parents will say that their children are in a different position than everybody else. How I treat my kids, what I do for my kids, what I give up for my kids, most people wouldn't do for other people. So if you were to think that God is your father and you are his child, now you have to understand the intention in which he created you to live and have prosperity and to love and to be loved and to show love and to do all these things, right?
Right.
Which he created in the first chapter of Genesis. So he goes through, creates all these things, creates Adam. We went through that. And then we went how he had then made Eve, made them this pair,
Yep.
and then Satan came and deceived Eve.
Influenced. Yep.
People need to understand that in the deception of Eve, she had to make the choice. See, because in the garden, it says that the tree of knowledge of good and evil was in the middle of the garden next to the tree of life. And the tree of life gives what? Life. The knowledge of good and evil gives knowledge. And with that knowledge, you can then be in the know of things that God has tried to separate from you, but he's given you the choice to engage if you so wish to. But he's telling you don't do it because you're going to die.
Right.
Okay. So then the serpent comes and he deceives Eve. He doesn't hurt her. He doesn't torture her. He doesn't strong arm her. He merely takes God's word and twists it. That's it. Did God actually say that you would die? Did he, you're going to drop dead?
Right.
But what he doesn't understand is that what we didn't understand is that we were about to give up our immortality for a mortal life. And people are like, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, if God's presence is with us because there was no sin, then we live forever as God lives forever. And the tree of life gives you life to sustain the body in which he's created you to stay in eternalness with him. Okay?
Makes sense.
Right? When Satan deceived Eve, and she said, and it says, I'm going to show you where it says. Where it says. It was in the fall. Where? Oh, here it is.
P.S. While she's finding this, I will say you guys will see a little bit of a difference in setup. We're no longer at the last location. We're at a different location. Undisclosed,
shout out.
we won't say because it's super top secret. And this is going to be turned into a biblical arena here in a minute. But the next episode, you should see some stuff that will be a little bit different than what we're looking at right now. So we appreciate your guys' patience. And while we're building this, we're still new to it. So stay tuned. Make sure you're tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like it.
Come find us.
And make sure you comment. And hop
Let us know
on
if
Facebook.
you have questions. Let us know if you have anything that you want to know about, because we'll discuss what we know.
Hop on Facebook. Hop on it all. Make sure you leave comments, and make sure you let us know if you have questions or topics that you would like to be discussed or touched on.
So it says, when the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food, pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. Because the devil before said, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. What do you think most people's problem is? They always want to be like who? God. They want to run the world. They want to control
people.
everybody.
Well, these days, everybody wants to be
complex.
like their
you have to
common
understand-
influencer or
but
their
understand the
celebrity
God
crush.
complex through all of history. These God complexes of people with power and money and how they use their God complex to control everybody else. And that is not what God does. As you can tell, he allowed the free will to make a choice. And the problem that we don't understand, see, because God gave authority in Genesis to Adam and Eve to rule over the animals, the earth, everything, to multiply, to be fruitful in it. This is yours to run. As soon as Eve gives in, then gives it to her husband, who decides not to question it, and then he gives in, now we've taken the authority God gave us and we willingly gave it to Satan. So now guess who has authority over the earth?
I'm going to go ahead and venture to say Satan.
It's no longer us. And I think we forget that. This is why we are able to be afflicted by evil. It's because we chose this life. This life didn't choose us. We chose it. Let me tell you. And now we are in the historical ripple of that which has already happened. And so when you give Satan authority, guess who runs the world? Who runs the world? Him.
Him.
He runs
runs
the governments, he runs the countries, he runs food supply, he runs military, he runs education.
Talking about like all the reptilians and all the bad people and stuff?
I'm talking about every Luciferian that totally follows Satan, and there's many of them, because if you run the world, you have to remember when Jesus was in when he was in the desert, and after he was baptized by John the Baptist, he went to the desert for 40 days, he fasted, and Satan came to him 3 times to tempt him. And at one point he says, if you bow to me, I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. And Jesus never said, well, they're not yours to give, because he knew that they were his to give, because authority has been recognized also by God, because we willingly gave it over. See, there is a precedent of how things are run. And now we suffer for that precedent which we gave into. And so if you can understand just that portion of it, everything else falls into place much easier. If you struggle thinking you don't deserve suffering, you will not understand what I'm talking about. Because the reality is, if God is going to sacrifice and torture and maim his only son for people who don't even believe in him, we don't get a pass at suffering.
And a lot of that, what I was going to say, and a lot of that stuff is kind of present today with what everybody is going through.
Right.
So,
and a lot of people are feeling like they don't deserve all these things that are happening. And it's like, yo, what's actually going on in your life? Because people have to forget, God does give you conviction. And he's been giving people more conviction in the last 3 years that I've seen noticeably. And people don't know the difference between conviction and guilt. So what I'm going to tell people is conviction comes from God. And it's basically calling you out for what you know you did wrong. Not against just somebody, but what you did wrong against him. It's like a parent correcting you when you did something that you weren't supposed to do. The enemy will tempt you with something that goes from God and then turn around and accuse you for doing that to make you feel like crap about it. That's guilt. And that is not the same as conviction, but they feel the same. And if you don't understand the difference, you get caught up feeling the guilt in which the enemy holds you and binds you by, because you don't understand what conviction is. Because conviction is being humbled and being like, yo, okay, that was my bad, I messed up.
And you know within yourself the conviction that you have for yourself.
But God doesn't hold it against you. He needs you to recognize it so that you do something better or learn from it or whatever you got to do with it. The enemy will just make you feel like crap about it and put you into depression and anxiety and, you know, make you feel like God will never forgive you. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Did the person that just got kicked out of did the person that got kicked out of heaven say something? Because I'm pretty sure.
Well, hence why,
Calm down.
Especially everything that's going on right now, you think about so not to get personal, but I'm going to, and this is why it's kind of tough. So alcohol, it's a thing. It sucks, but a lot of people consume it. A lot of people abuse it. A lot of people enjoy it. As you've seen
everybody has a different relationship with alcohol.
You've seen the good side. You've probably seen the bad side and stuff like that. But then there's other people that don't have a problem with it, that just enjoy it and stuff like that. But then they start to use that as an escape, that they start to not manipulate the situation to be in their favor, to where, oh, I'm just hanging out with some friends, having a good time, and this is why I'm drinking.
Right.
Or getting drunk. And then it turns in more frequently and stuff. But that guilt that you start getting, especially when you're hungover and you knew that you shouldn't have been getting that drunk the night before. You shouldn't have drove home drunk. You shouldn't have acted the way you did. You shouldn't have said the things that you did. And, you know, as somebody that struggles with alcohol or struggled and struggles, it's one of those things that guilt, it eats you alive. And then when you're sitting there and you make bad decisions or
but then you get tempted to do it again.
Then you do, yeah, exactly. And then it's
a cycle.
And then that's what I'm getting into. It's very easy for Shayla to say, yeah, you got drunk last night, but let's day drink today. And then you go and do it again. And then by day 2, you're like, man, I'm really just a piece of work right now. I feel like crap. I need to get out of this, you know, rotation or this feeling. And it's very, it can captivate you, and it can not captivate. It can capture you and make you feel very low and stuff like that. And then you get into that point to where, well, I'm just drinking now because I'm depressed, because I'm drinking, and I'm drinking because I'm depressed. And then
the enemy will give you every excuse. Yeah. He'll give you every excuse as why you're drinking and why you're a piece of crap.
And you've probably seen this, and I can attest to this, but it's very funny that when you're not drinking, you don't hear from certain people.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
But
you're
then-
about to get us into some
Yeah,
conversations that no people aren't ready for.
Yeah, so the thing is like basically when I'm not drinking or I'm taking time to better myself or be a better human being or be healthier, just in general, I don't hear from X amount of people or certain people.
Right.
But then when I'm on a bender or I'm on my, hey,
The
I'm
first
going to
one
be
they call
drinking, I'm
up.
going to be drinking. I'm getting hit up every day, every weekend. What are you doing tonight? What are you doing tonight? And stuff like that. And it's like they're so quick to be there. And is it them? Are they pushed? Are they moved? Is it the devil, the temptation that allows them to know that I'm vulnerable and that, especially my friends, the sheep and how's that saying go?
Yeah. So here you bring up a very good point because I want to tell you before I lose this thought. You make a valid point when it comes to, who's doing what. You have to understand.
I just meant the guilt and temptation. I mean, they go hand
in hand.
You get temptation, and then you follow it up with guilt.
But that's the thing. Those are the weapons the enemy uses against you because they
know that you're vulnerable.
And it creates a cycle from doing one, then the next, and the one,
especially when you're vulnerable.
Right.
And that's when he will hit the most is when you're most vulnerable, and he knows that.
Well,
he being the date.
And the reality
devil.
is if you don't understand that you're not up against the people around you, even though sometimes like it feels like there's people around me in my life that don't like me for whatever said reason, I'm not fighting them. I'm fighting the principalities of darkness. The enemy's coming after me, and he's using the people around me to put me down. A lot of the time, I have to visualize the people who hurt me as people who are hurting. So, and it's not just hurting like they're struggling. I'm talking like the enemy has them on the ground, beating them up constantly while they're standing in front of me trying to beat me up. You see what I'm saying?
Are you talking about me right now? Because my personal stuff, and I was dealing with some stuff, but that was also preventing us from doing what we committed to do, and that didn't allow me to be available. And like I explained,
but that's
to you
where
too,
grace comes in for people, is that I understand that enough that people also get beat up by the enemy, and it's not and this is why boundaries are an amazing thing, because
not just me struggling and me being suffering because I'm dealing with my own stuff, but then that falls on you as well. But then also you have your own going on. But
I got my own,
and so he's attacking you as well,
and he does, and he comes after me. He's going to come after me daily, and the more you commit your life to Christ, the more he's going to come after you. Because he doesn't want you telling everybody else. And if he can keep you complacent, he's going to do that. He does that with me all the time too. It's a constant everyday reminding and asking. And it's it's the relationship that you talk on the phone every day. Because I have an enemy I can't personally defeat. But he can make me feel like the most worthless person, no matter what people tell me. And so the only weapon I have against that is Christ. And that's just how I do that, but I have to have an understanding of who I am, what I am as a human, who God is to me. He's not just like the creator of the earth, like he's some God that is untouchable. We're talking about a father-child relationship. And what is the hardest thing that is that you're able to mend anymore is a father-child relationship. They've taken dad out of the system. They've taken dads out of families for people. You've got, all these things. You've got now women on the rise and chastising good fathers. You know what I mean? And there's all these attacks on fathers because that is a very important relationship. And we understand that because we also have a father who treats us like a child. And this is the kicker. The point of doing this is because hell was not made for us. When you have children, would you make a place of torture to send them if they decide not to be good? No.
Their bedroom?
Like, okay, with an Xbox.
They're still, yeah, exactly.
You're welcome.
With all the things, yeah.
But no one would, in their right mind, and I say right mind because people are like, oh, well, what about the story about this? I'm talking people in their right mind would never create a place to torture their children, no matter what they've done, right? God would not create hell for us. Who was it created for? The angels that defied him, who came down and did all sorts of things they weren't supposed to. It was made for them. We then transferred our ticket back to heaven, staying in heaven. It got revoked, and now we're on the ship to hell. And the only lifeboat we have is Christ, and we better be thankful because without the lifeboat, we're on the boat stuck. Like, that's it. And we signed that ticket a long time ago.
Especially with how much stuff and temptation and the way the world's going and the direction everything's going and stuff. It's so easy because it's literally at your fingertips. Anything that you do, I mean, you get on the internet and you're tempted with porn. You're tempted with ads.
Everything that goes against God. Everything that's the thing is everything's a counterfeit of what God created. The enemy creates the counterfeit of what God actually created. He created people to be the way they were, how he intended them to be together, and all the things. And like I said, that's what the interesting is. The more I really read this Bible, I'm like, it is the self-help book of all self-help books. But you have to be humble enough to know that, one, you didn't create nothing, you didn't do nothing, and you're just like everybody else. See, once you decide that your opinion surpasses a book that survived history, I'm not sure how to talk.
You're a grain of sand in the grand scheme.
Well, and that's what sometimes people forget. Like, who do you think you are? You forget science doesn't create, science discovers. Creator creates. Science only discovers that which has been created.
And it's funny that all these people, like, all this stuff is new and this and that and stuff.
And there in the book it says there's nothing new under the sun.
Right. Well, that, and then also, okay, the world is flat, this and that, blah, 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 and all this stuff. Everything is in this book already, and they've already prophesied, not prophesied, but it's all been predicted. It's all been done before. Well, the circle of life, a lot of this stuff. Now there's more to it now because we're living it. And it's a different time in this book. It's the same stuff, but it's a different version of it that's being created now based on the actions of the people that are in the book. I know that seems random to say, and I'm kind of bouncing around, but at the same time, it's like we're living literally what it's saying. And
that's what I'm saying, is that that's how much is relating. It's like there is nothing new under the sun. Everything that has been done now has been done before. And that's what people don't understand. And it's interesting that they won't try to make sense out of something but this is, like I said, but this is how the enemy works. When you run the world and you're trying to keep people from God, how would you do that? You'd create multiple religions. You create multiple armies. You create multiple kingdoms who fight each other. You'd create multiple ideas, things that are not true. It's called a lie. And the reason why it's so believable is because there's a teeny tiny part that might be true that derives from truth, but the statement is a lie in itself. But that's the end. He's the father of lies. That's just how it goes. I think it's funny too, because people will be like, well, I believe in Satan, but I don't believe in God. And it's like, well, then how do you believe in light if you don't believe in dark? Like, how do you believe in dark if you don't believe in, you know what I mean? Like, without what okay. It just doesn't make sense.
They go hand in hand. That's like
they
saying,
literally do.
Yeah, you like cereal with liquid, but not milk. You drink it with water. It's like
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
Cereal
it
is made to go with milk.
I don't think you know what.
That doesn't really make much sense. Do you know what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, and the more you watch people, I watch videos of people coming to Christ. I mean, out of the blue sometimes, and it's just like you can't fake a relationship like that with someone you can't see. You just can't do it, because I can't fake it. I could tell you the things that happened in my life, and I'm telling you, they're not done by me. I don't do much. And I will tell you, because you said something about flat earth, and I think it's funny because I researched some of that stuff, and some of us might think that we might be living on a flat earth.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. But here's the kicker. We could discuss the details and going back and forth, and it could, some evidence points that it could be a flat earth. Evidence can point this way, that, evidence can point to however you make the evidence look, right? The reality is,
you can shape reality to believe what you want to believe.
If it doesn't have any precedence on my salvation, the details in this lifetime don't actually matter.
Yeah.
Exactly. And people get hung up on the details of stuff that they know they couldn't prove either way. Because you ain't got no rocket ship you're going to go around to go see what the world looks like. Nobody does. You see what I'm saying? So I think that we're coming to a time where people are starting to kind of put themselves in a position to argue the little stuff because it doesn't matter. And that keeps the argument going without actually getting to the point of it. Because the reality is if I believed there was a flat earth and you did, either way, if one of us was wrong, that our salvation is dependent on whether we have the information correct or not correct.
Well,
It really is one of those things where like it doesn't really matter. In my mind, the only thing that would matter is that, let's say the world was flat, the deception that is caused on a literal global level, like that's what we're under, yo.
and that's
If that was the case, I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
And that's the thing too, is because a lot of that kind of stuff isn't just my opinion versus your opinion. More or less, it's what can we get them to argue about or disagree about, and let's cause chaos and confusion.
Correct.
Which is a distraction, and the distraction is from what we need to be focused on.
Correct.
And then at the end of the day, everybody's arguing about flat Earth, and Jesus over here like, "What's up, guys?"
You'll see it when you're here. Like once you get up here, you'll see what it is. Why it matters now is beyond me. Because you guys got work to do.
Well, what's kind of crazy, and I don't want to get all stupid, about the conspiracy stuff. Everybody that invests, and I say invest because there are a lot of people, yes, the conspiracies of this and that and this and that. I won't even go into them. I don't even want to drop names because I don't want to allocate any credit to these conspiracies, whether I believe them or not. But the thing is like the people that invest this amount of time and energy, what can you be investing your time and energy into that actually matters here and now versus something that isn't going to matter and you're going to be dead and gone years over, dead and gone by the time any of that has any kind of relevancy.
Well, even more so it's what can you control out of where you're sitting right now? You literally can do nothing outside of your own body. You ain't no magician. Nobody is. And so this is where I think people get hung up because everybody worries about that which they can't control in the moment. Everybody stresses about things they can't do. And it's like, what can you really do? Like if you really humbled yourself to who you are, it allows you to be more open to what could be out there. And God's not the one hiding, you are. So, and so this is where having this type of discussion and opening up and showing people that this Bible is more relevant to your life than any other book you're going to read. I'm just saying. That's the whole point of this podcast because I think it doesn't get enough credit, and I'm not here to be like, the Bible needs its credit. So I'm not here to prove, but if I can give a bridge to gap for somebody, that's all I care about. Because most people, I've been in the bar for 5 years. I work at a bar. I don't drink. I do watch people when we were talking about that, that go through that thing. And here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't judge people. People are going to do what they're going to do. And there's always a reason. No one just woke up one day and they're just an alcoholic. No one just woke up one day and decided they're going to kill their sister. Like these things don't just happen like this. And people's struggle come from something. They derive from something. And the less you deal with, the less you heal, the more it comes out. What I was telling somebody earlier is that we all have a legitimate need to be loved, to be accepted, to be important. And what happens is if we're not getting this legitimate need met, we have an illegitimate response to this need. So it's not that, people are trying to go around being, this, that. It's that we're responding in a way we shouldn't be because we're hurt, we're this, we're that, or whatever, or, we're struggling with whatever. But we all have a legitimate need as to why we're doing stuff. People aren't just a piece of crap and so they're hurting and now they're, drinking or doing this or doing that or whatever. There's a legitimate need everyone's looking for because God innately within us allows that. We know what love is. We came from love. We were created in love. We were created by love. We were wonderfully and fearfully made. Like this is what's within us. The enemy has pilled everyone for so long with veils of deception and all this stuff. And he's colluded such a version of what's supposed to be that everyone has no idea what they're doing. They think that, the point of your life is to have a 401k that's really big so you can go to, Sandals Beach, Florida for retirement.
Retire in Boca.
Or whatever the thing is. And it's like, yeah, but when you die, do you take your 401k with you? Because I'm pretty sure it's just still sitting in there along with all your stuff that's going to other people.
It's materialistic things that don't matter. That you've been led to believe that all these materialistic things right now are the only things that matter. And it's not what you have, it's how much of it you have based on that. That alone will be the status quo of where you are in life based on what you have. And you have a nice house, you have a nice car.
Well, when you
go out
make
to
that your
dinner every
purpose,
day,
though,
so
but when
that's
you
who you are
when
on
you
paper.
make those things your carrot that you're trying to reach, your carrot's never big enough. 'Cause as soon as you get it, you're like, well, that wasn't as satisfying as I thought it was. Let me get bigger. Let me do better. Let me put this on it. Let me do this. And the problem is you fulfill
You
nothing.
get caught in the rat
you
trap.
do nothing. You don't do, So
Or the hamster wheel.
I
I'm
thought
sorry.
if you make your carrot your purpose, if you learned what your purpose was in this life, everything because God knows what you need more than you do. He knows what you need to survive this life or to get to the next day. If you follow your purpose, he provides that which you need.
So this is kind of a segue a little bit, but that's exactly what I want it to be like. I want to basically be like, I want to say something that basically is, I want to be able to be in a position to where, yes, I am financially stable. I have a nice place that I've worked hard for. I have a nice vehicle. And I want those physical things right now while I'm living to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need them though. I don't need them. I'm okay without those things. A lot of the people that I know or, individuals that have those things, they enjoy them.
More than
But does that bring them the ultimate happiness?
No.
I personally, my quote unquote purpose for myself, I want to be in a position to where maybe it's in podcast form, maybe it's in video form, maybe it's just writing something. I don't know. I want to be in a position to where I can influence somebody in a positive manner, especially, I've mentioned this before, mental health, especially for men.
And this all goes hand in hand. I want to point out everything we're talking about goes hand in hand in what you're talking about right now.
I want to be in a position to where I can provide a stable grounding for a male specifically, but male or female that maybe listens to me, whether I'm giving a conference talk, whether I'm on a Zoom, whether I'm doing a video, or whether I'm just doing an audio book or whatever the case may be. I want to be in a position to where I can influence somebody for the better to help change their life kind of thing. All these physical things, yes, I want to have those. And if that attracts you to me, great. But then the message that you get from me might not be, this is how you obtain these things. This is where you get the difference in what happened. This is what you see on Instagram. This is the filter, and this is real life.
Right.
Because on Instagram, I look like I like to eat steaks and drink beer and hang out with my friends. But really, in reality, I'd like to just be at home playing my video game, nerding out by myself, not causing any harm or anything like that, or stressing my mom out because I'm out drinking and driving.
Right.
There's a difference. And that's the thing. I think a lot of the facade of what's going on in the world today is different because people they want to look like the Instagram.
Well, they have a representative that they give. They don't give them their self. They give the world their representative. This is who I want you to see me as.
There's a show, Black Mirror, on Netflix. I mean, it's the same thing, but like this is what everybody sees, and this is what's really going on. Is. But really, I want to be a tech influencer. I want to do this and this and stuff. But really, in reality, I just want to help people. Like me personally, I just want to, especially like John, your husband. He is in a position where he's helping other people, men too, and stuff like that. I want to be in a position to where I can help elevate mental state of others because I know that I've been on this side of it. I've been on this side of it, and I'm somewhere caught in the middle. But I want to be able to put out to the world what I want people to see, but I keep putting that filter on to where they only see this.
And so this is where we call the neutral fence that people live on. And the majority of people live on this fence. There are some of us who have accepted the good. We have accepted Christ, and this is the side we're on. And then there's people who choose to do evil. Like you choose good or you choose evil. Those who don't know what to do, who's scared to do something, who's afraid to take the plunge. See, those are the people that I end up talking more with because I don't want someone to ever be ignorant of their choices either. You know what I'm saying? Or having any type of responsibility. Like that's something that needs to be ingrained. And when you're talking about people's like mental health, we can't discount emotional and spiritual, psychological and physical, because you're not just your mental health. You are all of these things. And the problem is if we hyper focus on just one and discounting all the others, we never actually get to the goal. See, and this is where I feel like this is where the world creates so many paths for people to follow that kind of leave you.
And that's the part.
And
with
that's
the
and
devil
that's
that
it.
works so hard is because
Right.
the temptation is because, okay, I'm having a good streak here and I'm doing the things that I want to do and I'm making progress and I'm being productive and I've been sober for X amount of days and this and this. But then I find myself in a slump to where, and I'm speaking about myself because that's the only thing I can speak for sure and tell you facts and truth, because if I try and speak on somebody else's life or situation based on what I see on the internet or from afar, you're not getting the truth. So I'm telling you from experience, this is real from me. I'm here on a good track. I'm doing well. I've done a couple laps. I'm feeling healthy. I'm doing this. But then I get into a point where like, I can't make it around this corner now. And I'm falling behind and I'm not doing the, things I should. And now I'm getting lazy and stuff like that. We are always being challenged. And then this is kind of going back to the devil temptation and how it's easier and he targets you and everything like that. I find that when I get into those slumps, it's a very easy, and it's very convenient for me to do what I'm not supposed to do.
Of course, that's the point.
And that's the thing is I find myself, it's not challenging, it's not difficult. Maybe I don't have the money to go out drinking. Maybe I don't have the, gas in my car to meet friends or whatever the case may be. But somehow or some way, there always ends up something that works out to where it's in my favor, to where I'm able to go and do those things that I should not be doing. However, when I'm trying to do the right thing and I'm trying to be healthy and I'm trying to be on the right road and stuff, it's so hard to do that because it's one of those things that you get to that point to where it's like, okay, I'm working hard, I'm feeling great and this and that and stuff. And then you hit a roadblock and you're like, hold on, I got to keep doing this. And then you end up drifting away, and it's just so much easier to drift away and do the wrong thing than it is to do the right thing.
Well, the one thing
hence us not doing the podcast, I had this and this and this, and I let it consume me. And it's been a while, and I do appreciate your patience. And I will say that publicly. Thank you so much, Shayla, for being patient with me. But at the same time, I was going to say it was easier for me to make an excuse or this or that,
right, and
not do what needed to be done, not just for myself, but for you, for this person.
Well, the hardest thing to do is to ever face yourself.
Or being targeted by not targeted, being affected or influenced or moved by what you and I are talking about. There's somebody that may or may not need to hear it, maybe, and we're not providing that to them because of the choices that I'm making based on how easy it was to make those choices that are preventing me from doing these things.
Well, the hardest thing that people have, though, is to face themselves, especially when they feel like they're doing shitty. And that's just the reality. Nobody wants to deal with themselves. Nobody wants to.
And we're our own worst critic.
Yep. All the time. And that's a good thing. I'm going to tell you the difference because a lot of what you said was meaning you burden your life on your own. When I burdened my life on my own, I also suffered that same way. Now, do I still have suffering? Of course I do. But I know at the end of every day, I can always go back and be like, Lord, this is not how it is. I cannot, because if I lean on my own understanding, if I lean on my own dependence, I will fail every time.
I showed up at your work, and I was randomly having lunch or doing something, and I gave you a hug, and you're like, man, do we have some stuff to talk about? And I was like, look, I'm sorry. Straight to you in your eyes. Look, Shayla, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is, I've been dealing with this and this. And I've kind of communicated, told you, hey, this is the stuff that I have going on and whatnot. And you're like, you're not the only one, man. It's cool.
Welcome to the club. Cool. I didn't know you thought you were so special.
Yeah, you thought you were the only person that was dealing with stuff, but I've been going through it.
Let me introduce you to the rest of the world.
Yeah, you're like, let me tell you about my stuff. Oh, you don't got enough time today. We'll catch up another time. I got to work.
Yeah, but because that's the hard part is that people beat themselves up over something that somebody else deals with, and this is what I want to tell you. I've learned that in my head, because we talk to ourselves. I talk to myself all the time, all the time. I've also
crazy train.
Okay. There are times where I have heard God in my head, and it's different than any other voice in my head because it still sounds like me, but it's quiet and it is simple. And I've heard it specifically and then watched God provide something that I wasn't even expecting. after him telling me something and me doing it. Then there's a voice, and it uses the word you a lot. So when you're in your head and you're feeling like crap, I'm guessing you hear a lot of, man, you really fucked it up. Man, you really did this. Man, you. Do you hear that? You. And you see it, and you think you're talking to yourself. When you hear the word you are being accused. So who's accusing you? It's not God, and it's not yourself.
Say it.
Satan. Okay. But that's the reality. You have to figure out who is in your head. When there's times when I have images that pop in my head.
Sometimes there's a party up there, though. Like, there's a lot of people in my head.
Believe me, people know I dance when no one's looking. Like, I'm aware. But I also I'm not always in such this heaviness. Sometimes it's okay to not feel the weight of things. It's okay to just be, because really you're never alone. You're always with God. God's always with you. When you ask him to be in your life, you become his child, and that's what happens. But you have to ask him to be in your life. God's not a default. I want everybody to be very clear of all the things I'm going to say today. God is not a default option. You don't just get him because, in the end, like, okay, well, I'm going to lean that I was on the better side of life, so I get God. That is not how it works. You have to choose him. The default option is Satan. He'll take all the scraps. He doesn't care whether you choose him or not. He doesn't need you to choose him. He just needs you to not choose God. That's it. You choose God. It's like a protection barrier. But you got to ask. You don't get to just think that you're just going to float around, just have all the things you want, and then have no acknowledgement of that. That don't work like that. This is a relationship with someone who is always going to help you more than anybody else in the world. Your kids will disappoint you. Your family will disappoint you. Your friends will disappoint you. The clerk will disappoint you. Everybody does. Everybody falls short, just like you'll disappoint everybody. But God is the only one that is not disappointing. Will he allow you to suffer? Of course. How else are you going to learn your lesson? When you do something wrong. And everybody's like, oh, I'm a good person. Yeah, but in your heart the crap that you think or do that you need to put yourself checking for. That's just how it goes. Everybody's like that.
And
but
everybody
even God
has
said,
the same struggles.
and we're all
whether or
sinners.
not they publicize them or not, everybody's in the same boat.
And we're all sinners. And God says, even you who are evil can give good gifts to your own children. How much better are God's gifts going to be to you? Like, everybody needs to put themselves in check. But really, it's
Shayla, put yourself in check. Just do it.
Because here's the thing is, if you do not take the responsibility to put yourself in check or take responsibility for yourself, your actions, and what you do and put into the world, you force somebody else to do it. And then guess who becomes the enemy? The person willing to say, hey, that's not okay. Hey, that's not, then all of a sudden they're the enemy
and then
when you've chosen not to do so.
Then what happens? Then it creates a division, and then everybody is broken apart, and that's this side versus this side.
And then a falsehood comes out.
Which is also known as good and evil. And then that is the side versus side. That's all in the book.
Jesus, it's all in the book. Jesus says, I have not come to bring peace. I've come to separate families. I've come to separate friends. Because people will make a choice and not everyone will choose him. Because we were given the free will not to. And now we're subject to that which we didn't know before. Now we know fear. Now we know shame when we didn't before. And God then took the tree of life away and was like, they can't live forever now that they know everything, acting all a fool and acting like this. They don't get to live forever. So he took the tree and shut the garden and was like, bye. And then since then, we've been toiling and toiling and toiling. But let me tell you, this book, every story you read, we've been reading in our Bible study. Every day we read like 2 days worth because it's a daily plan. So you're supposed to read the Bible in 365 days by reading some of the Old Testament and then some of the New Testament from the beginning, each day. And we do because we do it once a week. So we do like 2 or 3 days depending. And we do it separately. We do men with the men and women with the women just because, men need a space to discuss things that they don't need a woman's opinion on. And women need a space that they can discuss. They don't need a man's opinion on because men need to learn to encourage other men and women need to learn to encourage other women. Like we are the ones to take responsibility for ourselves because we're the woman we understand. Same way with the men. Sometimes this is the buffer you need to bring before you go to your spouse or your loved, before you start having that conversation. You buffer yourself. I'm going to tell you that right now. But where was I going? I ended up chopping off right there. And I went off on all so many things. And also
I said it's all in the book.
Yes.
You said you've been doing the Bible study.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you. So I was doing this. So we've been reading through Genesis and Exodus. And as we're reading through Genesis and we're dealing with Jacob, who was renamed Israel, and how Israel became, when you're reading the things about his children and the things that they've had to deal with and all the things that they've done, it was during the same time when Jerry Springer just died. Okay. And the only reason why I said that is because we're reading through this, and on my phone they say Jerry Springer's dead.
I hope this is going somewhere because
no, because here's the thing:
I thought she was having a stroke or something. Because like the Bible and Jerry Springer died.
Because
newsflash,
I'm reading through Genesis. If you read this, you would. I'm telling you, I'm reading through Genesis, and then they say Jerry Springer died. I'm like, y'all don't even know how Jerry Springer Genesis was. These things these people did, and these are the people God used to continue His word. They weren't like, the richest people, the most powerful people, the people that had the nicest stuff. These were people that were humble enough to screw up and be like, my bad. What am I supposed to do? That's what these people, you want to talk about some Jerry Springer stuff. Holy smokes. And we can get into those stories later at a later time. And I'll pick one out and we'll go over one, because some of these things are just like, you just laugh because then you look at the world and you're thinking, okay, how do I put this out there? But no, it's becoming more and more clear for me. And it's even more clear because I was saying earlier, I've been at the bar for 5 years and I don't drink, but God's allowed me to be in a position that, I don't mind that people drink. I don't get bothered when people do stuff, as long as you're being appropriate or whatever like that. Like, I'm not one to care, I'm one to take care of you. If someone's had too much to drink, I drive them home. We do that. We take care of our people. And we don't judge them for being there. Some of them have problems. But I noticed that, people who drink, like you were saying, it's because of a problem. I had one of my, and I'm not going to say their names just because there's still people in town. So I had a regular who passed away, and, he was an alcoholic and he was very lonely. And he, had certain family that, wouldn't let him live with them. And a lot of it was because he was an alcoholic and he drank and there was no drinking allowed. And I thought, our problem is we try to cure the problem that isn't the problem. We try to cure the symptom only, but you can't cure the symptom without curing the problem, because the problem's still there. You're still going to get symptoms.
And this person was part of your heart. You cared about this person.
Very much so. I work during the day, so there's a lot of older men that I wait on that have been doing this for years. And
that you've kind of mentioned stuff. I won't say anything as well, but rest in peace. But at the same time, there's perfect example. It not that. And again, I don't want this to get confused, and I don't want to interrupt. I am so sorry.
No, go.
I don't want it to get confused. Like, it's okay to drink and stuff like that.
No,
I'm not trying to say that, but
when
he was there, he came into her life for a reason, but he was there for a reason. And
I think I came into his life for a reason. I think that's where it came down to, because,
and it's not a matter of just taking care of our people because we're local.
You
kind
of
thing,
love
like you're
them.
Saying. It's brothers and sisters.
Well, it's not even that. So for me, like,
we're all connected somehow.
These men became my companion. I became theirs. I saw them 5 days a week for a long time. I saw them more than I saw my own children. We talked and we did. And, other bartenders can attest to this. And a lot of people in town can, just because, they're all close, but they become your companions and you care about them on a different level. And I just remember thinking, we want somebody to look better than they're doing. But it's like, had you cured his loneliness, I wonder how his drinking would have done.
Right.
But see, we want to cure what we decide instead of just loving somebody where they're at. And, he ended up falling and he never came to, and he ended up in the hospital, and I went to go see him. And I sang with him because we sang all the time. And I sang with him for like 2-3 hours in the ICU. They shut the doors because I just built it out. I don't care. And I'm talking to him, and I watched him respond. And they're like, no, he's not responding. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm singing his favorite song, and homeboy's over there trying to sing it. But, he wasn't coming to, but I knew that he was still there. And so I prayed with him, and I don't know. And God, I know, can do more with something that small. And so, you just keep praying and you just keep loving people, because the whole point is, people think that Christians just want to shove stuff down people's throat. And it's just about loving people. We don't judge them. We love them where they're at. That means we love them beyond their things. And there are some people who will be rejective of you. And that's okay. If God brings them back around, great. If he doesn't, then that's okay. Most people in my life will be seasonal.
You want to hear something funny?
Yes.
It's kind of messed up, and I don't want you to take offense to it, nor do I want anybody else. But I told some friends that I was doing a podcast with a friend. And they said, "Oh yeah, what's your podcast about? UFC or video? What are you know and stuff like that?" Because they know me,
Right.
I was like, "No, actually, no, it's not at all. I'm doing it with a friend, Shayla. It's actually, we're bridging the biblical gap. We just talk a lot of real stuff. I almost said some stuff, but we talk a lot of real shit going on in real life, real world problems, and we reference the Bible and the way the book is made and written and how the two coincide and live literally side and side." And I was trying to explain this to him. It was two different friend groups that I mainly have. One of the people, shout out, you know who you are. I'm not going to say your name because I don't think it needs to be publicized, but he wrote me a long text. And I said this in the last one, and I think I told you this, but he was like, "Dude, wow, I didn't know that you were doing that. You guys said some crazy stuff. That's awesome, man. That touched me and stuff." Cool. That's what we want. That's
right.
You had a lot of it too. I had another group of friends. All right, that same group, I'll finish with them. A couple of them like, "Cool, you're doing a podcast about the Bible. Cool." Cool, man.
Good luck with that, man.
See you. Yeah, whatever, dude. I'm going to, go do whatever. Coke in the bathroom at this
Right.
local bar or whatever.
Enjoy.
Yeah, have fun. See you later. And the other group, I try and bring it up, and I got laughed at. Like, straight up laughed at. Like, dude, you're doing what? You don't even go to church. Why are you doing a Bible, blah,
Isn't
blah.
it
And
funny
I was like, dude,
how
it's not
non-Christian people judge Christians more?
well, some of
and
them
then
are
accuse us of
Christian
being-
people that are religious and that celebrate Easter and this and that, blah, 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 and all stuff. And
So
I'm like,
okay.
and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then I say that, and
Atheists celebrate Easter too.
and I'm
so.
like, you are so quick to make fun of me. I was like, let me show you at least a clip of it. Let me show you part of it. No, they didn't have any desire to see or hear it, but they're very eager to make fun of me about it and kind of thing. And I'm not trying to say that bothered me because really, I don't care. I really don't care. I have that personality.
But it shows you who people are.
But it
can show you how the world is.
It was very eye-opening to
Exactly.
me that I sat there and I said something that I was doing. If I said it was about the
UFC?
the NBA playoffs, and commentary on what's going on, with the playoffs and this and this, and or the newest strip clubs in Portland or something like that, then they'd,
Johnny,
tell me about it, and I'm like,
let me see a clip.
yeah, but because it's something that one, either they don't believe in, I don't know, I can't tell you, it's either something that they don't believe in, they're not interested,
relevant,
or they don't care to know because
it's not relevant to them.
Push that away because I don't need that.
That's the problem. And that's the whole point, is that they think this is not relevant.
But the thing is do you know why they push it away? The guilt of, if they bring that kind of talk into their system, well, then I don't want to even get into it because I do cocaine on the weekends. I
don't want to stop.
I have
I party and I like it.
I have inappropriate relationships with a lot of women, or I do this, or I party this, or I've done this in my past. They push it away as fast as I say something because they don't want to deal with themselves.
Because who's the hardest person to deal with?
Yourself.
Exactly.
You're the biggest critic of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really funny that I bring that up because, it was funny for me, and I didn't want to be rude, say, hey, this podcast is a joke kind of thing, because my friends think that it's a joke, and why are you doing a Bible podcast because of this or whatever. And it's like, I encourage you to listen to it and tell me it's a Bible podcast.
Right.
Because it's referenced or talked about, or
right.
Our conversations are in here already. Oh, you didn't know that? They are. Our conversations are already in here.
Listen to one episode and tell me that you didn't think of something in your life, or think of someone that what I said applied it to. That's all I'm saying. And that's all it is. And it's hard.
So
it's hard for people to accept.
You have a friend. We don't have to say names. I'll say they because I don't want to identify a man or a woman, but they were actually going to come and sit in today. Yeah. And because they are just interested in the conversation and they want to see the magic happen.
How it goes, yeah.
And I say that
Well, and this
the
person,
magic, because
I will say who it is. Well, I won't say who it is, but I will tell you she usually is around when I'm
people
having
have
these
questions,
conversations.
and sometimes
Excuse
it touches people in a different way than it.
But she knows what can happen, though. She's sat in these conversations with me with multitudes of people. This is only my first time doing it where other people can see it. Usually the only time you get part of this conversation is if you show up in my garage.
So
or
hold
show up in my
on, real
house.
quick, before you go on,
Okay.
real quick. You and I and she and he and he. Okay, there's 4 of us there. They basically are going to be, you're good. We all listen to the same 5-minute clip.
Mhm.
We all take away different stuff. It's going to touch me different than it touches you.
Correct.
I'm not going to say that. It kind of
Right.
sounds inappropriate, but
yes.
the words are going to affect our bodies and ourselves
and our
spiritually
life, and our perspective,
mentally and our
correct.
perspective and all that stuff.
Right.
It's going to be different for you than it is for me, than it is for she or he
Correct.
or whatever.
Yep.
I encourage you, if you're still listening to this and watching this and stuff like that, I encourage you to share this with somebody you think would absolutely turn their nose up at it. Have them listen to a part that you thought was impactful for them. This is your call to action.
Yes,
and basically
I love it.
Encourage them to listen to just one part of it that you think would be impactful, that was impactful to you, but that you think applies to somebody that you know.
Because you think of somebody.
Oh, for sure. Somebody automatically pops in your head.
Every
I already
time.
know somebody popped in your head because I have like 14 of them in my head right now.
I've got a whole waiting room of people in my head waiting to be called on.
And those are the people that are talking to her every day that she's constantly. But anyway, I encourage you to. Yeah, that is your call to action. Aside from hitting the like button and the subscribe button, make sure that you
take a piece and share with somebody and see what happens.
Record it, screen record it, ask me for it. I will get it for you. Share it with somebody that you think might benefit from hearing it. Because I'm not trying to change anybody's life or religion or anything like that, but at the same time,
but the investment in your relationships matters. And the only way you invest in a relationship is by breaking down walls between each other so people are able to have vulnerability. The problem is that no one wants to be vulnerable. No one wants to be the first one to be vulnerable. I learned that a long time ago. And I finally was the one that was like, this is my crap. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And, and I have a way that I talk and I do, and I just do it the only way I know how to do it. But I've found over the years that when I open up to my vulnerability and my shortcomings and how I've dealt with stuff or how I've put up with things or how I've allowed things in my life, I've noticed that it's allowed someone else to all of a sudden spill their guts, and they were not planning on even sharing that. But you have
when you and I used to talk on the phone before any of this ever was
exactly. And we're like, this is good stuff. We should stop talking right now.
It's like 2.5 hours later. We're still talking on the
because
phone.
I would post something and JJ would just message me like, why would you even say that? Why would you think that? How do you believe that? Can you explain that to me? And then I would, and he'd be like, oh, that makes sense. And then and it became this, and it was probably like a year and a half after realizing that we both lived out here because we both moved out here, and there's a lot of people actually out here that I'm like, I can't believe we're all out here. But it was one of those things. So it's, it slowly came across, but
I wonder why.
I'm telling you, but it's one of those things where, I could sit here and talk all day, but I enjoy talking with somebody who runs back to the fence quite often. And I don't mind that because the reality is you represent a position of people. And here's the thing is, don't think don't do that. I know what I know and I know what I believe and stuff, but don't think I don't struggle where I get dragged back towards the fence. Because sometimes some days are hard, so don't think it's like that. But you really represent, in just how you've come about with conversating with me, you represent most people on how it is. Most people, there's 3 different kinds of people.
You're welcome. No,
there's 3 different kinds of people. There's the person who, if a mountain moved, they believe it right then and there. A third of people believe that. A third of people will be like, well, it was already there. And a third of people will think that you're completely crazy and that don't know. And that's just the reality. No one will even believe. These are the type of people we're dealing with, in the world. And so, but it is interesting because people don't realize that the investment in your relationship really matters. Relationships, the whole purpose and that was one thing I had to discover, is that relationship was created by God to have, because when I create my children, there's a relationship there. And then I invest in that relationship. And it's the same thing. He invested a relationship with us, and this is what he's done for us, and this is what he allows for us. Every breath you take in and out is his own name. just going in and out. Like, this is how much he loves you, that you get to breathe in and breathe out on the daily, you know? But investing in your relationships, having hard conversations, you can see when people are struggling. You can tell when people have walls. A lot of us don't want to acknowledge it. We don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but I'm telling you, allowing people to stay in their comfort zone of crap. And I say crap because it could be toxic, it could be angry, it could be depression, it could be whatever. But if you allow people to stay comfortable in that, it's not good for them. Loving somebody is saying, hey, don't stay there. I can help you get out of there. I can help you with this. I can help you with that. It's not like I'm going to give you some sort of red pill and you're going to wake up tomorrow, and I'm not here to just give you a bunch of money. But it's like, you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime,
And that's a very valid point. And I will say this about somebody that I know that's very close to me. Again, I won't say their name. It's in one of my groups, but he stepped away from the group. And it was one of those things that he was very there a lot and very vocal, and he said a lot and stuff. Radio static lately. Like, he's been very quiet, very, short with his answers and stuff. However, I reached out to him and I said, hey, this is, what's going on with me. How are you? Mm-hmm. That relationship that you have to have with somebody. And I was just like, hey, checking in, what's up, blah, blah, blah. He didn't give a reason. I didn't pry. I was waiting for him to kind of open up what's going on. If he wants to talk about it, he will. Mm-hmm. But also establishing those lines of communication and having these talks with people, sending a clip to them of what you think would be impactful, or from the outside perspective looking in, let them know you're thinking of them. Hey, this reminded me of you. Send it to them. And that's kind of what I was going to do after, some of the clips and stuff. But I also want to say, make sure that the people that you are around, that you don't hear from them or that are quiet or this or that and stuff, check on your people.
Well, check on your people. If someone pops in your head, check on them. That's just how it goes. Yep. When I
somebody else might not be checking on them.
When I kept having this weight of this podcast on my mind, because people have been telling me about this for years, but I don't have nothing. I don't do nothing. I barely can make videos on my phone. Like, it's not, I have, and people are like, oh, they're so good, but I really don't know what I'm doing. And JJ popped in my head. And it popped in my head because he had posted a video in a studio looking thing. And just the way it was set up, like, he was like, hopefully I can start something. Like, he looked like he was ready. He just wasn't sure where he was going. So the car was running and it was just idle. He was running. He's like, okay, where are we going? But he was like, we'll just take it for a second. Like, until I can know where I'm going. And when he popped in my head, the way we conversate, and I think it's nice because, it's not like, we're older now. Like, you don't spend every single day with people, right? But to have conversations with somebody that that you have a history with, that you know the people around them and stuff like that.
And it's outside your household, so it's not like they have to listen to you.
But it's one of those things where it allows a really free conversation and something very natural to be able to have with people. And I think that's seriously, and it's really great because I think that's what people are wanting. People are wanting to know how to get these feelings out of them, how to deal with themselves better, how to not live where they feel not just sadness. You can be sad, but depressed and anxiety. And I get like that. I go through my bouts of it too. I've had to learn that I'm a seasonal friend for most people. I have lifetime people in my life, but most people are seasonal. I think I show up at times when people need me the most, but I don't always stick around for that.
It's so funny that you
for
say
the rest.
That. My aunt and uncle are like that, and I've tried to be better about being more consistent with my communication to them, but I find when I'm in some of my darkest times or the deepest times, or there's stuff going on in the world or this or that and stuff like that, I find myself reaching out to them because they are spiritual, they're LDS, and like I've spoke about, they are the ones that I turn to for guidance and opinion and what do you think about this, and what do you think about this going on or this going on.
Well, you have to have people in your life that grow you and that challenge you and that you can go to, that can give you advice that you're not necessarily wanting to hear, but you need to hear.
The best advice that my uncle ever gave me, and he said, you can only control what you can control inside of your bubble. Anything outside of your bubble, acknowledge it, know of its presence.
Deal with it when it comes, but
don't focus on it until it breaks that barrier of your bubble. it's not relevant at this point in time. After that, once it breaches your bubble, then you take action and you worry about how to deal with it.
Correct.
Until then, acknowledge it, understand its presence,
One,
but focus on what's inside the bubble.
One, you focus, and that there's another part. Have you ever seen the movie The Shack?
Sounds familiar, but I don't.
It's a very interesting movie. I didn't know what it was. I actually didn't want to watch it because it was about a little girl who was kidnapped and killed and stuff like that. Just it's hard for me, and so I didn't initially want. I knew nothing about it, but I started to hear how people in our area knew this person that wrote the book, the experience he had, and then this movie that he made, and I still knew nothing about it. Well, I ended up watching it, and it shook me on a level I never cried so dang hard in my life. It was the craziest, most relevant depiction of my personal faith with Jesus. It was wild. And I was like, holy smoke. And the things that got brought up in that movie. So if you have not seen The Shack, please watch it. It is very encouraging. It's not a religious based, I think it was based off an experience. And it's about a man who, deals with the death of his daughter. And he has an encounter with God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And I remember it just blowing me away. And I was waiting for something to criticize that. Oh, that's not biblical. That's not biblical. But the way they would talk.
Wasn't like that?
No. The way they would talk, it's not like they were like shouting scripture or anything like that, but it aligned with truth. It aligned with grace and love and all these different things. And so it was just like, it blew me away. There's a certain part in there, and they give a part to a woman, and she is called Wisdom. And that's when my whole body lit on fire. I mean, lit on fire from the inside out. Because what she said is exactly what was, And I understood it. And I understood the meaning behind it, and I understood all these other things about it. But if it gets to the point, though, you have to, sometimes you have to learn to step outside and refocus. And the one thing about the movie that I liked, and something I think is, there was a part in it where they were talking about focusing, like when you're focusing on God and you're just like, you're going, like you're good, like nothing's too distracting. But the minute your problem shouts and you look, that's it. Straight back into the mud you go. Now you got to crawl yourself back out of it. It was the same way when Jesus had Peter. He came on the water. It wasn't Jesus' idea for Peter to walk on the water. It was Peter's idea. Lord, let me come out. He just said, come. And as he was looking to Christ, he was walking on water. It was the storm that scared him. And then he looked down. And then the storm consumed him. And Christ had to go pull him up. And like, why'd you even look up? Like, why'd you keep focused? God allows, but you got to stay focused. You know what I mean? If you look at your problems, that's what you're going to have. Problems.
I like that you get into your duh voice, like the Jesus. Why'd you even look down? Like, Jesus got you. What are you doing?
What is happening? But then, you don't know what you would do if you were in the presence of Christ and having to deal with the fact that Christ is here. If I looked down and I was
walking on water, I'd probably poop a little bit.
I'm just saying, but it was his idea, and it was storming. But even in the storm, I'd have been like, "Yo, are you coming back in the boat?" Because
okay,
I'm not coming out.
But so this is a good one. Christ said, "Hey, come on, no problem. You're gonna walk on water. Just come on." You'd be like, "All right, cool, no problem."
I dance on the water. I'm like, "Can you tap? Can you tap?"
You probably moonwalk all the way over there.
Lord, hula dance all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
You take a shark.
Give me some good moves or something like that. Me, I'm like 1 foot. I trust you, but are you sure that this is okay? Can I really?
That's
walk?
most people,
and that's why I will run to the fence kind of thing, and I will say that. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, there's 1 foot. Okay, I got 2. You're right, but am I gonna make it all the way over there?
You're like most people. And here's the kicker: that small percentage that you think you lack is just faith, is just believing, because you're not unaware. You know what truth is. You can make sense of things. You can add. Even if you didn't follow Christ before, you can make sense of things. You can tell when it's confusing or when it's honest. You can tell the difference. So believing Christ isn't that hard, because there's truth and then there's not. You know what I'm saying? That's just the reality of it.
That will kind of lead me to a conclusion point. I will say this real quick.
Okay. This has been so nice. I'm so glad.
Oh, we're doing it again. You guys don't even know.
I'm so thankful. I'm
we're
so
recording
thankful.
more.
High five.
Yes.
High five.
There is people that you aren't aware that are struggling. There are people that may or may not understand that they are struggling, and it's a facade to where, nope, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Everything's good. I'm just dealing with this or this. They're struggling. Are they distracted? Is there this going on? Is there this going on? Who knows what the circumstance is? They have the opportunity to change their own life. They may or may not. They may not even know what the problem is, and everybody's so quick, like you're saying with your friend, to fix what they think the problem is, but they don't really know what the problem is. And that's kind of something that's relevant in my life. A lot of people think that they know what the problem is, and that's why I'm doing the things that I'm doing or acting the way that I'm acting.
And you got to get to the root of the problem always.
But at the same time, it's hard to talk about it, and then you can only open up with so many people or certain people about what the problem is, to where sometimes you just shut down and don't talk about the problem. And then it continues to be a problem because you don't talk about it, because they just think that it is what it is. And
right.
If you are struggling or you have a problem or something like that, talk to somebody, let it out.
I'll leave you with an image.
Yeah.
If there's a tree, okay, you're a tree, and you've got little combustions of explosion and fires. Okay, these are all your issues. Okay, school, work, kids, this, that, and and every time you go to put out another fire, another one lights up. And it's like you keep bouncing from branch to branch. But if you would climb out of the tree for just a second, get down to the root of the tree to figure out what the problem is, because whatever's happening in the root of the tree is now coming up through the tree and exposing itself into the branches of the tree. You see what I'm saying? So you can bounce around from tree to tree, putting fires out all over the place. You can keep doing that, but you're exhausting yourself. You need to figure out what the root of the problem is. Drinking isn't the root of the problem. It is the symptom of the problem. It means you do have an issue you're dealing with, and nobody probably knows. And it's not the drinking. The drinking is just what's helping you not deal with it. That's with anything.
Or it numbs you to where you just
you don't have to deal with it.
Yep, exactly.
You just don't have to deal with it.
Yep.
And that's what I said, is that if my friend's loneliness would have been dealt with, because when he was in the hospital, I thought he was coming out. We were preparing for him to move into my house, because I was just like, I'm going to take care of you until, because I mean, he was old. He was going to go anyway, but you know what I'm saying? But I was like, because if somebody would have helped him with his loneliness, would have drinking been so bad? Probably not. And I don't know, maybe not, but I'm just saying, you just never know. Figure out what the root of the problem is. Figure out what's really on. And if you're going to do anything, before you do anything, love somebody first. Loving them doesn't mean them doing what you think they should be doing. Loving them is listening to them, showing up for them. You need something to eat. You need someone to talk to. You need a place to chill. You need a place to vent. This is how you love somebody. Loving somebody isn't saying, hey, you need to do better. And we know that's not how it works. And if someone's not ready to talk, they're not ready to talk. And the reality is, if you don't put it on my plate, it's not up for me to serve back. The minute you put something on my plate, you allow me to serve back what you've given me. And I always tell people, if you're not ready to have that conversation, do not serve me a plate, because I will serve it right back. And it's not to be in your face. It's just to help you, show you what's actually on your plate that you can't see. That's all.
Shayla's like, you sure? You ready to eat? Because I cook
you better
a lot.
be hungry.
You better be hungry,
because this is going to be a big plate.
Yep.
And it's only because I just want to help and love people.
Same.
That's it.
Same. This has been amazing.
This has been a good one.
Shay,
I'm happy. I'm so excited. God is really good.
As always.
So thank you so much for joining us.
If you're watching this
and coming out,
we appreciate you.
Please share. Please like. Let us know if you have anything that you want to talk about, you want to hear about, you have a question about biblically, life-related, relationship, whatever. You got something? I'm pretty open to talk about pretty much anything on here. So if you got something, let me know.
The last video that we put, we had a lot of comments. The Facebook page, there will be a link to it.
Yep.
Make sure you check that out. Make sure you follow or join the group.
Come check us out.
Because a lot of people made comments, and a lot of people text her on the side, and
they did.
A lot of people text me and stuff like that. It was
very
pretty
encouraging.
Refreshing to see that. And she kept sending me screenshots of people that watched it and had opinions, questions, stuff like that, and just basically overall, like, Shayla, good job. That was awesome, blah, blah. And it was really cool to see that, especially for her. And I'm really excited about that.
I'm excited. I'm excited that this has become like, this is going to be so good. I'm really excited. Wait till you guys see the things that are going to happen in here because.
Yeah, there's more. We're not going to spoil
I'm not going to say
Don't spoil it right
okay,
now.
okay.
Wait, just
but
wait.
thank you so
but
much.
There's going to be some
things.
difference of things somewhere. So
Although
it's
that's
going
not a
it's
bad
going to be,
poster.
it's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
definitely,
thanks for so much for joining us, you guys. We appreciate it.
And 100% of the shots that you don't take don't go in. So make sure that you take those shots. Make sure that you check on your people. Make sure that you love people before you judge them.
Yep. And have a great day. We'll see you next episode.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
See you guys.
Bye.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. See,
that was awesome.
look at we split like that. We could easily get into another one like
right now.
Right now.